We live in a time of instability and crisis. Our world is driving toward ecological degradation, war, inequality, and political volatility. And yet, there has never been a shortage of those willing to forge a new direction. Across the globe, millions continue to struggle for a better world, for peace, for equality, for freedom. But how do we find a path forward in these troubled times? Where do we put our efforts, our hopes, our dreams? What would it take to build a society that sought not to produce wealth and power, but to meet people's basic needs, including the need to be seen, to be valued, to have purpose? What would it take to build a path toward dignity? The hard truth is that the path does not already exist. The path must be built, its foundations laid, its obstacles cleared, and its length paved. But foremost, its direction must be clarified. If we, who dedicate our lives to social movements and political struggle, aspire to change the world, then we must be firmly oriented in our historical landscape and be able to navigate the political-economic dynamics that shape it. Without an orientation, without a rigorous framework to make meaning out of our world, we will be lost following well-worn trails to nowhere. We will be condemned to repeat the mistakes of the past. This is the context from which a radically original framework of ideas is emerging, a way of understanding history and society that could fundamentally transform the way we think about social movements and the strategy of political struggle. The work of the philosopher and political economist Kojin Karatani, which has only recently become widely available, has already been held as groundbreaking in the academic world. But the true value of his ideas lies in what they could mean for activists, for organizers, and communities. Karatani's work provides an orientation. His deep historical study reveals the economic relations that have shaped our world history and that will shape our future. His analysis lets us see patterns, repetition, trends in the political and economic landscape, and most importantly, it lets us see the potential embedded within the tradition of social movements, universal religions, and indigenous societies. There is a type of economic relation, a form of power, that is and always has been available to us, a mode of social organization that rejects hierarchies and inequalities and insists on the dignity of our existence. Here lies a guiding star, a light to follow as we seek to wayfind in these times of crisis. Karatani was born near the city of Osaka in 1941. He studied economics at the University of Tokyo and was a leader in the Japanese student movement of the 1960s. Later, he became a literary critic and cultural commentator, writing in Japanese magazines and journals with broad popular audiences. Today, he is well known in Japan and considered by many to be its most important contemporary philosopher. In 2022, he won the prestigious Berggruen Prize, known as the Nobel Prize for Philosophy, with which he was recognized for his radically original contributions to modern philosophy, the history of philosophy, and political thinking, making Karatani's work particularly valuable in the current era of troubled global capitalism. Karatani has a unique capacity to produce synthesis without oversimplification. He is direct and theoretically precise. He draws from a deep familiarity with theory and philosophy and is not afraid to break with the dogmas of traditional historical study. Instead, he develops the modes of exchange framework. The modes of exchange framework is built on an insight that is self-evident and yet often overlooked. Our social world, and by extension, everything we are and do as individuals, is a product of human interactions. The ways we come together to pool resources, to compete, to collaborate, to protect, to threaten, or to love give shape to the society we live in and dictate the roles available for individuals to fill. People interact in countless ways according to their specific history and their geographic context. But there are patterns that have emerged through time. Human interactions tend to fall into four broad categories, four modes of exchange. These are mode of exchange A, gift and reciprocity, mode of exchange B, plunder and redistribution, mode of exchange C, commodity exchange, And lastly, mode of exchange D, the free gift. These are analytical categories. They distill essential characteristics of the ways people and communities interact with one another so that we may disentangle our understanding of complex social phenomena. The combinations and articulations of these four modes of exchange and their evolution over time create the economic, political, and ideological relations that make societies, their tendencies, and their contradictions. They create social formations. These categories encompass the exchange of objects and money, but also the exchange of promises, of debt, of theft, of violence, of belonging and recognition, of obedience and protection, and of love and solidarity. They are fundamentally economic exchanges. At their heart, they involve the objects we need to survive. But in giving shape to our interactions with the world, they determine how we understand the world. They give form to our ideas and our beliefs of what is possible. The four modes do not exist independently of each other. They cannot be fully disentangled from each other. They are inextricably linked and ever-evolving. Yet, for the purpose of learning the framework, we speak of each mode of exchange separately, describing their historical emergence and how, at different points, each mode became dominant over the others. By distinguishing between them, we can gain perspective on how they interact, how they have changed over time, and how they have shaped history. We can organize these four modes based on two fundamental characteristics: the degree to which the exchange is based on and reproduces inequality, and the degree to which the exchange is free or unfree. Mode of exchange A, gift and reciprocity, was the governing principle of tribal and clan-based communities for thousands of years before the advent of kingdoms and empires. These societies were governed by complex social institutions, similar to the Kula of Melanesia or the Potlatch of the indigenous peoples of the Pacific Northwest, that function on the basis of reciprocal gifting to maintain social cohesion and keep material inequality to a minimum. We still engage in this form of social exchange on a daily basis with our friends, extended family, neighbors, and with members of our communities of identity, such as religion, ethnicity, race, and nationality. These relations determine who is included in a community or who we feel a debt to, and they often give us a deep sense of connection, of belonging. At the core of mode of exchange A are material and symbolic exchanges that affirm shared membership in a social group or community. These are gifts and counter-gifts. They are exchanges that beget reciprocation. One group gives to another with the knowledge that there is an obligation to reciprocate in kind with something of equal value. The gift ties people together. It demands or even forces reciprocity. It is not freely given. Mode of exchange B, plunder and redistribution, emerged as the dominant form of human interaction with the rise of empires. When some communities or clans came to dominate many others and institutionalized their power by means of a standing army, bureaucratic structures, and public works such as irrigation systems and roads. Today, plunder and redistribution is the underlying logic of the state. We pay taxes to the state, which is controlled and operated by a relatively small social class, and they in turn establish the military, the police, the carceral system, and the social welfare institutions, which supposedly ensure economic stability and generalized welfare. Mode of exchange B arises when one community continuously plunders another. The relation is formalized when the plunderer ensures that they have exclusive and sustainable access to the plundered community. The plunderer develops a sophisticated governing apparatus to secure territorial power from other states and maintain a monopoly of violence over non-state actors. This exchange is unequal. The will of the plunderer is elevated over that of the dominated. It is also unfree. The dominated communities cede a degree of autonomy that they cannot easily recover. They must pay tribute, demonstrate submission, or face the consequences. Meanwhile, the plunderer must fulfill their end of the deal. They must provide protection and redistribute resources to maintain their position of privilege. Mode of exchange C, commodity exchange, is the dominant mode of exchange in our society today, and it is the driving logic of our global capitalist economic system. It is the act of buying, selling, and exchanging goods and services in a market. It is the basis of trade, of the wage-labor relation, and of finance. It has existed for thousands of years, but it emerged as a dominant mode of exchange with the development of capitalist social relations. At the core of mode of exchange C is the exchange of goods and services. Commodity exchange occurs between people and communities that come to the trade freely, but are actually in unequal situations. This inequality becomes overt with the development of money. Money is a privileged commodity. With it, you can acquire any other commodity, including those that you can later sell for a profit. This produces the possibility for someone to engage in an exchange with the sole purpose of acquiring commodities that forward the process of accumulation of wealth. At the dawn of human history, people lived in small bands of nomadic hunter-gatherers, no smaller than what was needed for hunting and no larger than what could handle the equal distribution of food. Mode of exchange A emerged as a way to establish the social cohesion that was necessary for more sophisticated societies and was dominant until about 6,000 years ago. When Mode B became dominant, with the birth of empires, it subordinated but did not abolish Mode of exchange A. This is because gift and reciprocity still worked at the level of agrarian societies, which paid tribute to and were ruled by kings, chiefs, and emperors. Mode of exchange C originated in the same time period as Mode B, creating a world economy that allowed for accumulation, but it remained subject to the forces of plunder and redistribution. When Mode of exchange C became dominant, with the emergence of capitalist globalization, Mode B became the organizing principle of the modern state, and Mode A became the basis of the modern nation. Together, capitalist globalization, national unity, and the modern state articulate to produce the capital nation-state trinity, which is the underlying structure of modern society. In this social formation, the three modes of exchange work in tension to stabilize and propagate the whole. When there is economic turmoil, we see the nation fill in the gaps with mutual aid, or the state gain new authoritarian powers. When people distrust the state and have little community, they push for the freedom of the market, with the hope that it will provide sustenance and protection. As a result, the capital nation-state trinity adapts fluidly to changes in the relative forces of each of the three underlying elements of the social formation. It has weathered hundreds of years of rapid technological and social change, and unless there is a fundamental restructuring of economic relations, it will continue to exist into the foreseeable future. However, there is a fourth mode of exchange. There is a type of relation that transcends the other three modes of exchange. It rejects the inequalities and hierarchies created by the capital nation-state trinity and instead creates moments of unmediated connection, moments in which we exchange the recognition of our shared singularity, moments in which we experience the dignity of our existence. Mode of exchange D is a gift that requires no reciprocation, no witness. It is a free gift. It can be described as a type of solidarity that is not based on belonging. It is a recurring political-economic phenomenon that has, at brief intervals, shaped the course of world history. The free gift has given direction to popular movements, universal religions, and free egalitarian societies throughout history. It is a unifying thread of traditional and ancestral knowledge across the world and has been the inspiration of rebellions and uprisings. It is a driving logic of a nascent, emerging political project we call associationism. It is and always has been available to us, though it is actively repressed by dominant social institutions. In the free gift, we see the possibility of conceptualizing a way forward in these troubled times. Concretely, if we can organize ourselves by striving towards an open, universalist solidarity, by building institutions that short-circuit the production of inequality and unfreedom, and by thinking rigorously about the types of exchanges that we depend on in our daily lives, we can begin to build the basis of a radically different form of society. We can undermine the hierarchies established by Mode of exchange B, transcend the class divisions created by Mode of exchange C, and mitigate the sectarianism produced by Mode of exchange A. In the next videos, we will delve into each mode of exchange in depth, giving examples of the roles they've played in human history, as well as how they interact in our current political and economic landscape. Join us on a journey that will radically change your view of history and give you a glimpse of the guiding star that has lit the path of our ancestors and can illuminate our way toward dignity.